This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Nursing staff at the Princess Margaret Hospital are concerned about the level of security at the public institution after a doctor was recently hurt while attempting to tend to a gunshot victim.
It's a matter that's being addressed by hospital administration, but Janelle Ferguson tells us that nurses are now fearful for their lives.
They feel very intimidated and threatened.
Strong sentiments from the principal nursing officer, Valarie Miller, who says the rising level of crime has spilled over to health care services, and nurses and other staff are now in fear of their lives.
A lot of them subjected to a lot of verbal abuse and to the point of physical abuse. We'd had cases where nurses were assaulted, literally, in the accident emergency. More recently, physician, and so naturally persons should be apprehensive and fearful for their lives.
This concern is heightened when prisoners and those under police guard have to be treated within the general hospital population.
They themselves are concerned if they see a police officer armed or defense force officer or an obvious prisoner beside them. So it has a ripple effect. But I must say the staff are feeling very compromised, very threatened, and fearful for their own safety.
Hospital Administrator Mary Walker recalled the tragic incident back in 2001 when Nurse Joan Lunn was shot and killed while administering her duties. Most recently, a doctor was harmed while attending to a gunshot victim. And since that time, Walker says hospital security has increased. She said efforts are being made to ensure that known prisoners are isolated.
That's very commonsensical, so that you could reduce the risk of anything happening. And we have had a good relationship with prison services in that regard. It's when they require inpatient services, then the guard is actually stationed here with the patient as long as they're getting the care. Violence is in the community, and we serve the community. Unfortunately, it is flowing into our realm of activity. Staff, definitely, we have had to have supportive care for them, not only to save with the environment, but also to psychologically support staff.
Despite concerns from the staff, Walker says at the end of the day, their aim is to make the working environment as safe as they can. Janelle Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
An accused murderer walked free today after Crown prosecutors offered no further evidence against him. Our Fern Carey has the details.
28-year-old Haitian national John Dieur was freed Monday after Justice Vera Watkins ordered jurors to acquit him of a murder charge. Dieur was on trial for allegedly killing his stepfather, Alice Santilmo, on Hatchet Bay, Eleuthera. The victim's partly decomposed body was found inside a barrel back in January of 2011. However, following the close of a voir dire or a trial within a trial Monday, prosecutors offered no further evidence against Dieur, prompting the court to order jurors to find him not guilty. She then told an apparently relieved Dieur that he was free to go.
Now, although the defendant has been cleared of murder, he still has to go to the prison to be processed before he is released, and that is something his attorney says should never happen.
Prison and the police should be very clear as to what matters they have pending, if any. In this particular instance, my instructions are that Mr. Dieur has no other matters pending and he has no previous convictions. And so if that is certainly the truth, then I'm of the mindset that he should have been released, if not right here at the court, certainly at Central.
She noted that the current process, while impacting the liberty of someone freed by the court, also leaves room for lawsuits to be filed against the government.
I represented Billy Johnson previously in about 2010, and he was held for 6 days at Her Majesty's prison whilst they sorted out the various paperwork between the judiciary and the prison to determine whether or not he ought to be released. He was finally released, but of course that resulted in us having to bring a claim against the government. And so, I'm just of the mindset that if the government claims that things are tough, they have budget constraints, that perhaps we need to be more careful with judicial time and judicial resources.
Meantime, Farquharson Seymour said Dieur is looking forward to returning home to Hatchet Bay, Eleuthera. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
26-year-old Yellow Elder Gardens resident Shakatori Thompson was formally charged in court today with the murder of Nadia Cartwright last Monday. Police say 33-year-old Cartwright was riding on a motorbike when she was shot in the head on Blue Hill Road. The courts also charged Thompson with the attempted murder and attempted armed robbery of 32-year-old Henry Burnside. Thompson was not called on to enter a plea to the charge and has been remanded to prison. He's due back in court October 20th for service of a voluntary bill of indictment. 19-year-old Shaquille Bodie made his first appearance in the magistrate court today, accused of killing Carlos Taylor back on August 2nd. Police discovered Taylor's lifeless body through a track road between Fleming and Dunmore Streets following reports of gunshots in the area. In court, Bodie was not required to enter a plea to the charge. A voluntary bill of indictment is expected to be filed. Bail was denied and he was remanded to prison. The case has been adjourned to October. And longtime career civil servant Harold Munnings has died at the age of 90. Munnings had a decorated career in the public service from 1951 until the late 90s, which included the positions of chairman of the Public Service Commission, coordinating many international events and conferences. His most notable role as coordinator of the 1973 Independence celebrations. He died on Friday. Moments after his passing, Prime Minister Perry Christie was notified while on a video teleconference call with cabinet ministers. He paused to reflect on Munnings' distinguished career.
Someone who has contributed significantly to the course of development of our country and who has been a quintessential public officer in terms of service in its broadest and most diverse form, but like everything else, has now gone to its eternal reward.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.